Welcome back to part two. Thanks, Nikki.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little about the industry because casting doesn't sit in a vacuum. It is arguably very connected to financing. A lot of the roles, the lead roles, there's pressure to cast big names.
Yeah.
What is that process? I mean, that's not a process of testing, really, is it? It's like, how are you working out which big name is going to be right for this particular role?
In the beginning, it was a very frustrating process. Now you just accept it. You just have to accept it, or you're just railing against a system you can't beat. So the reality is that in order to finance things now, you need a level of profile in certain roles, and that there are very few people who satisfy that, and that it will shift from project to project. So if it's a comedy, it'll be this person, but if it's a drama, this person might work. And so it's even really hard for me to understand sometimes. So we work in a very preliminary sense, and that is about producer, director, and myself, sometimes writer, kind of sitting down and thinking, okay, who are the people that the director would feel excited by in the role, that the financiers are going to feel excited about as to sell, and that are attainable. So part of the problem now is you get these lists from financiers, on a $3 million film, and they're saying, yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio would be great. And I think, well, great, but he's not going to do it. So what's the reality? So you always
And how much time do you waste going down paths
and
that
how
we
many
know?
months do you waste?
Yeah.
And that's when you come back to that idea that we are talking about before about opportunity. So that's when you kind of go, okay, who are the big actors that work for us, that work for the director in the role, that we're giving an opportunity to potentially? And then the Australia of it all also works against you, because some people go, I don't want to go to Australia 17 hours away or 26 hours away, and I've got kids in school and I can't spend 12 weeks there. So you've got to find the person who's right for the director, the person who's right for the financiers, the person to whom you're giving an opportunity, and who's happy to come and be in Australia for that period. And of course they exist, but it's a process.
And you're looking at, different material when you're casting a big actor. You're looking at their other films or TV shows, and and some interviews.
Yeah.
And you're extrapolating out how might those qualities sit with this role, rather than bringing someone in, having them do a test and then having a recall and another recall and a workshop and testing out. I mean, you don't know always ahead of time how they're going to inhabit this character.
No, you don't know who the character's going to be. Absolutely. And I think that can make, that can push casting into a really safe place and a conservative space, because what ends up happening is you cast someone that you feel can do that.
Right.
And that is a shame sometimes. But it also depends on the skills of your director. Like some directors are incredibly skilled technically, and they might have come from a VFX background or from a cinematography background. Directors are not a unitary kind of
homogenous bunch. I mean, they do come from every
area. They come from
area.
lots of different spaces, or they might have been a writer. So someone might work from a very text-based thing. Someone might work from a very visual base. Someone, so not every director has a great ability with actors. Some, in fact, I'd say it's a reasonably small amount of
Is that right?
directors that are really genius with actors.
To bring out things that the actor doesn't even know they have in them.
And some are fine. Some are very workmanlike with actors, and they can get a performance and guide an actor through it and keep them on track. But there's not a lot of directors, I don't think, who really work with an actor to create something. And they're obviously the brilliant performance directors in the end. And so I worked with a director many, many years ago and I thought, well, it's very self-aware, who just basically said to me at the beginning of a process, can you cast actors who are director-proof?
Yeah, right.
Like he knew what his
He needed amazing actors who are going to do that work.
And I've also been in situations where we're looking at someone going, in the right hands, and I think, but they're not. You've got to think, what are the hands they're going to be in? So there's no point casting someone who has potential to be great with great direction if they're not going to get it. And that's not a criticism of the director. So you're casting for the film, for the financier, and for the director's skills.
And casting these big name actors. I mean, I was thinking about what we were saying in part one about, creating actors needing to create a safe space to explore and to challenge themselves. I think it's similar with the financing and everyone involved in financing. Everyone's searching for safety.
Yeah.
And hopefully they're also searching, not always, for ways to use the safety to be able to take some risks. But the question is, where are those risks? But also, how do you find, and everyone is inventing, notions of safety that, well, if we have these two actors who have this level of profile, who are, well known on Netflix or whatever service, then we'll be okay. And then now we can, go for it with some other elements of the show. So it's all sort of balancing this sort of, and safety is a psychological thing, isn't it? And half of it is make-believe. So you sort of got to go with the make-believe of it.
Well, the reality is that shows come out and become enormous hits with nobody in them, nobody we've ever seen before.
Well, the reality is that the things that become hits are almost always unexpected. By definition. And to do that, you need to be at that boundary between safety and risk-taking, or certainly pushing the boundary. When things feel safe, audiences go, I've seen that before.
I've seen it before. And sometimes people like that. Sometimes people want to eat pizza. Sometimes people want something that's familiar, safe, easy, not too challenging, and that's fine. But often then things will come out that But that argument just doesn't fly with financiers.
No. But just thinking of the counter argument for a second, and this is not about financiers and really big name casts, but just audiences and how, I know, speaking to you and casting directors, there's the excitement of the job often is finding freshness, fresh actors who we haven't seen before, haven't been so exposed. But audiences love watching people who they love. Like they do.
They do.
They enjoy. They're not sick of seeing. I mean, you might be sick of seeing because you're seeing everything, but the average audience is not sick of seeing a particular actor. They are excited to see them.
Yeah, and there's no, it's like everything doesn't have to be new. I'm not trying to say that for a moment. I think there's different versions of things. So there might be an anchor person that's a really familiar face, and there might be new people around them. And so it's always about a mix of things. Yes, but a lot of people will go, oh, I want to watch the new show with blah, blah in it, because that's what makes them, you go onto streamers now and we all shop around, and there's so much content.
It gives you a purchase on a show. It's like, that sounds interesting.
I like him. I like her. I like to watch them. They're funny. They're interesting. They do interesting things.
The show that has nobody that you want to watch is the breakout show. It's the exception, not the rule.
Yes. They exist.
They exist, absolutely. But for every show that's broken out with nobody you've heard of,
there's a lot that just disappear.
There are a lot that have not broken out with nobody you've heard of.
Totally. But you think about during COVID, for instance, when streaming really burst into our consciousness with those TV shows, and you think of things like Normal People, like Queen's Gambit, Unorthodox. There were a whole bunch of things that appeared at that time, and we didn't really know anybody in any of them. And we were a captive audience at the time. But
yes. But once again, there are still many shows that
have
had that equal level of non-known people who
Well, you look at The Studio, which is just full of famous people, and I think people watch it for that reason.
Yes.
Yeah.
At a certain age, when actors would have, had a career for 10, 20, 30 years, how likely is it that you're going to find somebody who's a really great actor, that they're 50 years old and that no one's heard of?
I think that we've never heard of is unlikely. That the audience has never heard of is... So, for instance, I mean, the big one that everyone always pulls out is Shine.
Yeah.
Because no one in the cinema world knew who Geoffrey Rush was. But people in the acting world knew who Geoffrey Rush was. He'd worked in theatre for, 15, 20 years. Yeah. So he was a very famous theatre actor. Although the kind of flip side of that is now everyone goes, is there someone in theatre that we've never heard of? And I thought, no, we've all heard of these people. Yeah. It's the audience that might not. I mean, you look at Jackie Weaver in Animal Kingdom. Yeah. Theatre audiences definitely knew who she was. A very, very famous musical theatre actress and theatre actress for a long time, and had done television here and stuff. The cinema world didn't know her. Okay. So at that age, she could do Animal Kingdom and suddenly have a career in America. So it does happen.
So it's finding people who can cross over to the screen rather than we've discovered a 50-year-old who's
it's not impossible, but it doesn't happen a lot. No.
Can we talk a sec about different cultures.
Yeah.
Seesaw is based in the UK and Australia. We also work, in the US as well. We're majority owned by Medione in France, and we're working on some European type productions. There are different environments that produce different acting styles.
Yep.
Different level. I guess just also that the UK has just a huge number of shows being made, particularly in television, which means that there's a huge training ground. And there's also, you talked about, a history of Australian drama, which got very earnest for a moment, which produces a certain style. The US can be much more front-footed and a little bit more upbeat.
Yep.
How do you think about cultures of acting? And how would you describe some of the differences, without risking being cancelled?
Yeah, and look, this is just general observations because obviously nowadays people move all around the world and act in all kinds of different styles and places. I think sitting from the outside, I think American acting, because a lot of American projects are very plot driven. Mm-hmm. So I feel like American acting has been shaped by that. It's always like move forward, keep moving. There's
they've got to help push the plot forward.
It's a dynamic quality. It's kind of keep moving forward. It's don't sit in things. It's everything keeps moving. And I feel like the acting style, as a result, massive generalization, is has a certain attitudinal quality to it. Mm-hmm. So you come in with an attitude and you carry that through. And then that's why you end up with big speeches and a lot of...
What's an attitude?
So like I have swagger. I am a can-do person with swagger. And that's what I carry through. So England...
You need a shtick sort of thing to stand out, to give
it's your attitude.
To give your role a sort of oomph that differentiates it.
That's kind of what defines your character. Is there swagger, or is there emotion, or is there something? England, which is a very language-based culture, so text-based. A lot of their training is very text and classical text and stuff. So I feel like English actors are very much about trusting the words and letting a lot of and of course actors cross over in all of these, but I'm just talking massive generalizations. It is kind of trusting text, and I feel like so often when you watch English actors, for me, I see something that's quite detailed and sitting in the text. I find in England things are often shaped by where they're set. Like there's a certain Manchester style, Mancunian style, and things that are in Liverpool, and they sit because they're very text-based. I think their work sits in the rhythms of language and accent and socioeconomics and all those things. And so I feel like there's often something quite specific and quite nuanced about that.
Nuanced.
Yeah.
Grounded, but it's not necessarily grounded, but it's sort of like...
I guess it's
is
grounded
it more three-dimensional?
In a cultural reality about accent, socioeconomics, rhythm, circumstance, history. There's just a whole bunch of stuff. And I think that's true of European acting to some extent. It's much more specific. Whereas I feel like with a lot of American things now, there's a kind of, not a generic, but there's a certain style, a plot-driven style that's kind of in the acting as well.
Yes. And where would Australia sit in between, or depends where they've spent most of their time?
I think a bit of both. So I think a bit of both.
Or where they come from as an actor, whether they've come from the theatre or from television or from...
And what they're focused on.
Yeah.
What their focus is as an actor, where they want to be, who they've worked with. There's room for all these styles. There's rooms for all these different rhythms.
But can it be problematic when you bring those styles together in a show and it's like you've got a sort of UK actor doing one thing, or do they know how to put on the American hat, and does the American know how to put on...
I think English actors do really well in American stuff. I watch Task, and it's full of English and Irish actors. And I mean, obviously Mark Ruffalo and Tom Pelphrey are really extraordinary in it. And then there's all these beautiful English actors around them. But I feel like there is a definite style of acting in that show that's really detailed and nuanced and sitting in something, even though there is quite a lot of plot as well as a lot of character. I think actors move across styles. They just bring a little bit of themselves across.
Okay, well, just to shift for a sec to, I guess, authenticity casting and, diversity and the opportunities and challenges of that we've really I think there'd been a sort of a very lazy way of seeing the world previously, and now there's the sense that actually we need to go out of our way to find people who might not, we might not see regularly on our screens. So we need to go and search them out, and have our screens populated by a sort of diverse acting pool that was more representative of the audience. At the same time, roles do require certain things: ethnicities, genders, sexualities, and then there's acting itself, which allows you to inhabit, almost by definition, characters that are not who you are. Where do we sit now in the evolving question of what right do actors have to, or how far can they go to inhabit characters who are really not themselves?
Not themselves. Okay, so it's a really tricky conversation, and it's an evolving conversation. And I think it also is a conversation that depends where you're sitting in that conversation, like who you are in this conversation. So I think undoubtedly our world needed to change, and people needed to be given opportunities. And I think the danger is, I think people need to be given opportunities. I think we need to be careful about becoming too rigid and orthodox about the way we cast things, because there is acting involved. So I think the problem in the past is that there was just people were excluded or largely just not represented. So part of it is not just a problem of casting, it's a problem of material, what's created in the beginning. And I think if we start creating difference within material, then it's less about imposing it on the material through casting, if that makes sense. So I worked on Bring Her Back. That character was written as a blind character. And right from the beginning, we were really clear we wanted to cast a sight impaired actress, not someone playing it. And that's all we ever looked at. We never tested beyond that. And then Sora, who ended up playing the character, came in, and we loved her. She was older than the character and she was Chinese, two things that were never expected. But the directors were just clever. They just went, we can just accommodate that. That's fine because she's the right person. So I think it's about being open in casting. But I think we need to be really careful about saying someone can't play something because they're not, because there's always a flip side to that. So I had an actor ask me at NIDA many years ago in a workshop, do you think that only working class actors should be cast as working class roles?
Yes, right.
And I said, I get what you're asking me here, but you need to be really careful about that, because then are you saying working class actors can't play anything else? Because that's the flip side of that. You can't say only queer people can play queer characters, because then are you saying queer people can't play characters that aren't queer? So, and I think that the argument about this is making sure people have the opportunity to play those roles, that they're not just always acted by some generic, heteronormal, middle-class white people, And I think that the big movement is to push away from that as standard casting into other areas. But I think we then need to be really careful about boxing ourselves into spaces where we go, you can only play what you are.
Yes.
Because then, you're forcing people to declare what they are.
Yes, which is sometimes not appropriate at all.
Well, it's also no one's business.
Yeah.
In no other job that you do, does someone say, what's your gender, what's your sexuality, what's your ethnicity? You know what I mean?
Well, there are a number of issues around this. One, obviously, is inclusion, diversity, the sort of morality of that and the value for society. But there's also a question of how it affects the quality of the role.
Yeah.
And it goes to some of those issues we were discussing in part one around, what a character brings innately and what they're able to act. Is a working class person more likely to be a better actor for a role that's working class, or is that available to anybody who can tap into or research that part of themselves?
Do you know what? It's just the right, but it's also, we've also got to be really careful that a character doesn't get defined by their socioeconomics.
Yes, right.
Do you know what I mean? You might be, the character might be working class, but is that all they are?
Yeah.
Do they have other qualities?
Or they might be a high status person
Yeah.
within that, or have just as a human being, a personality is not defined by our...
That's right. So I think that's why we need to be careful about rules. I think we need to look on a case-by-case basis and go, what's appropriate here? Because sometimes it is appropriate. Sometimes it does really work to cast someone who comes from a certain space. But I think we need to be really careful about binding ourselves into
Yes.
boxes, because what we're also doing is putting human beings in boxes. It's a very binary kind of way of working, like you're working class or you're not, you're queer or you're not, you're this or you're not. And I think human beings are a whole bunch of things. And I think we need to let people be the full possibility of themselves and not be rigid about that. And look, I just think, I just get very worried. I think opportunity is what matters, that people are not shut out, that people are given opportunity. But I think the moment we start putting anyone in a box, then you're also locking them in a box. Do you know what I mean? So you might be giving them an opportunity, but you're also locking them out of
And you're
opportunities.
creating a language that can then be used against them.
I am all for, keeping things open and making, I certainly don't believe, you go back to the classic case of Memoirs of a Geisha, which is full of Chinese actors. And to me, that is just weird because there is an amazing Japanese acting community. It's rooted in a very specific part of the Japanese culture. There's that is a case of I just don't understand that. You know what I mean? So I don't think you just conflate things. I don't think you go any old brown person will do kind of thing.
Yes, and there's also the flexibility of changing roles, as you talk about, with Bring Her Back.
Yeah.
Where I get to a little bit on this is the importance of that first good faith attempt to try to explore
Totally.
the communities that the people are from. I mean, obviously, ethnicity is more important to do than socioeconomic in the sense that, there are things we have more license as actors, or actors have more license to inhabit. But to do, first really good faith attempt, but in the end of the day, in the hierarchy of values of our industry, and there are so many pushes and pulls. We've talked about financing. We've talked about creative. We've here talking about equity and diversity, inclusion. Fundamentally, the thing that lifts everybody up, and the reason we're all here is to make something great. And so it's having that flexibility to be able to go, okay, we've now been surprised, and actors come in who maybe didn't fit what we were imagining, but they're incredible, and they're going to do something surprising. And our primary obligation is to the work itself. You want things that are going to resonate, and what resonates, a feeling of authenticity, and you're more likely to do that if the whole process, including casting, comes from that place of authenticity. I mean, tangentially to authenticity is the question of artificial intelligence and AI.
Yes.
And I guess this is a sort of place to explore and finish this podcast. But, acting is pretending to be somebody who you're not.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence, I guess, is very much another layer on top where you are pretending to be a human, pretending to act.
I don't think anyone's pretending anything at that
Well,
point.
I mean, it's not real,
It's
the
data.
AI. If you have an AI performance or some semblance of an actor in there, but you've literally enhanced it or created it through AI. I mean, humans are incredible at anthropomorphizing anything, whether it's a sort of from a teddy bear.
Yeah.
We project ourselves on, and acting is part of that. It's having a cipher to project, for someone to hold the experience of being human, so that you can feel what they're feeling. How do you think about and obviously, sorry, this is a long-winded preamble, but animation is a version of digital.
We've lived with this for a long time in different forms. Yeah.
And CGI has taken us, very strongly to CGI characters who we still experience the emotional truth of what they're going through. But there's something feels quite different about AI. There's a whole world around, employment and, jobs and what's fair, but just to stay in our lane here, which is about performance and acting. At what point do we just not connect with an AI performance because it somehow doesn't seem to be able to hold the authenticity that we need to be able to feel what they're feeling.
Well, I'm curious. I haven't seen anything. A film just debuted at Cannes, didn't it? A whole AI film. I don't know. So here's the thing: that when we watch animation, it doesn't look like us. Do you know what I mean? It is an anthropomorphized version of us. So there might be certain human features, whether it's animals or little creatures or whatever. There'll be certain human features, like it's often to do with eyes or face shapes, or this is the theory of the French bulldog, why everyone loves French bulldogs, because they're close to a baby's face, And so
Very
animation,
unattractive baby's face.
animation, yes, squash baby's face. Animation has created that for a long period, but it's real humans voicing it. So we're listening to real people, we're looking at something and we project emotions onto it. I'm really curious to know, and I haven't seen it yet, what happens when we're looking at somebody who looks like us but isn't us, whatever version of us that is. And I'm assuming with AI, the voice is also created, or maybe it's really voiced. So I don't know the answer. I just don't know. I feel really ignorant now, like I should know more about this. Will these be AI generated voices that we're listening to as well, or will they be actors? Because for instance, if you created an AI picture and an actor voiced it, I think we're more likely to connect with it because it's a human voice. I'm curious to know, I found it's really interesting. My main experience of AI so far has been clips on Instagram of animals and things. And I find what it's done to me is I now have this slight mistrust of things where I look at it and go, oh, I used to really enjoy watching puppies or something.
Yes.
And now I just go, oh, is that AI?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's sort of created a barrier. And
You don't know what to trust, so you don't trust.
yeah. And I don't know, do we want to watch? I don't know. I guess all will be revealed.
Yes.
Is the answer. I don't know.
What I love about this moment of technology is that technology always forces us to, I guess, redefine what it is to be human. Because as humans, we're trying to, create our own boundary in space. It goes, this is what's us, and this is not what is, just technology that is, I guess, infinite in supply. It's being human is special, and so as you're saying, we don't know where it's going to go exactly, and we don't know where the boundaries of what is human is. I think there's a model that I find quite compelling to think about art. And maybe this is different to thinking about screen content as product, but to think about art, that art is a sort of love triangle between the artist, the work, and the receiver of it, the audience. And that, an actor and a writer and any creative person, a painter, whatever it is, they are actually communicating something. There is a sentient conscious being with an intention to communicate something. And sure, we can appreciate an image just for the sake of the image. But if there's no one on the other side who's actually communicating to us, then I think just sort of philosophically, it's in a different category.
It's intention. I think you're right.
Intention.
It's intention. And I think that there's also a danger in human beings where you go, sometimes we do things just because we can. So like I look at AI movies and I think, why? And there's going to be a million AI people out there shouting at me. But I understand AI. Like I understand where it's useful and there's a lot of amazing things. But I look at a movie and go, why? Is it just because it saves money? Is it just because we can? But does it make it better? I don't know. Because what is the intention behind it? And I think it's also assuming that movies are just pictures and sounds. And I think you're right. There's this whole other thing that lives outside.
Well, there is. It's a work that is trying to communicate a vision of the world to you at their best. And an actor, going back to the actor, is as we know, a human being who is making choices.
Yeah.
And those choices are based on, their vision of the world, their vision of the character. So you're in relation with a human being. And I guess that's why we like to see our favorite, movie stars and actors, because we're in relation to a human being.
Yeah.
And we know that there's someone on the other side who is being mediated by a performance.
And it also comes back to one of those early questions we were talking about what makes an actor special on screen, right? So not every actor is equal on screen. And I don't mean skill. I mean, some people just come alive on screen and some don't. But what you're doing with AI is you're removing that. You're removing the magic of the individual human, that thing that we don't understand, that thing that is about charisma or energy or whatever it is. There's a million words that people in the film industry use for it.
I wonder if you can have charismatic AI, or do these energetic type words by definition only sit with human beings?
I don't know, because I guess given that AI is data, but then this is then the danger. And this is what I don't particularly understand at this point. That maybe if AI was collecting data from very charismatic human beings, maybe that would try. Because we don't exactly understand
charisma or chemistry.
What chemistry is. How do we know how to replicate it? You can replicate the idea of romance or the idea of friendship on screen with AI, but how do you replicate chemistry?
I would imagine that AI could. There'd be nothing to stop AI being able to mimic chemistry or charisma or these things.
We don't know what it is.
But that's okay. AI doesn't know what it is either.
No,
it's also predicting and mimicking. But I think that doesn't take away from that sort of conceptual framing that there is still, we're not in relation to anyone who is actually charismatic.
No.
And
it's Oz. There's nothing behind it.
There's nothing behind it. And what will be interesting, I think we just don't know, is how much people will care or not about that fact.
I know. And once you get past the gimmickry of it, once you get past the, oh my God, this movie's just made up and there's no one really in it, do we really care?
I suspect personally, and we'll all see, and I'm sure by the time this podcast is out, things will have moved on a bit as well. But my understanding is that young people are not taking up AI as much as older people are.
Yeah.
And that I certainly know from my 3 boys, they are incredibly disinterested in watching things that are AI. And in fact, there's a premium on authenticity. Now, they may be unusual, but from the data that I've understand, younger people are not going, this is the way we want to experience art.
Well, also because they're not stunned by technology like we are, because they grew up with it. Technology, I mean, we all grew up with technology, but what I mean is this kind of digital technology is just normal to them. You know, it's not as astonishing, probably, that this can happen.
Well, I mean...
Whereas we come from a generation where, you know, people had movie cameras, so...
No, sure, but I think historically younger generations have embrace the technological shift, you know, the move to electric guitar. They're the ones who are going, this is amazing. This opens up a whole new world that older people don't seem to understand and appreciate. But in this case, they're not embracing it yet as much as one would have thought, which maybe suggests that, you know, intellectually it's interesting, but fundamentally it's not giving people what you want out of a screen experience. So maybe it will shift our understanding of storytelling and screen experiences to being more artful, and to actually want things where there is someone on the other side communicating something.
Because I've had, when I was at uni, people would say to me, well, AI is great if you just to whack out your first letter or your first draft, whatever. And I thought, but the problem with that is that then becomes your starting place, and that's what you're refining. You might then work on it and make it better, but that's the genesis. And a brilliant idea is born in its genesis, you know? So... it's the idea that then takes a lot of work to create something. But if the idea is sort of slightly banal and then you just work on it, then are we just going to, is anything ever going to, you know, is anyone going to write Ulysses? I mean, maybe no one needs to write Ulysses, but do you know what I mean? Because AI, that's not the genesis
No,
of something.
100%. Look, so people work in different ways.
It's the surprising genesis of something.
I know for me, and it's a bit old school, but I think by writing. I could never have AI write something because... it's missed the moment where I'm trying to work out what I'm thinking.
And where you get excited by when I was at
maybe
uni,
other people will think through editing. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. When I was at uni and people said you can't use the AI, back then you couldn't use AI to write your first, I thought, why would I want to? I just can't understand why I would, because that's the whole point for me, is to sit here and think. And if you take that away from me, then you're just churning something out. I don't.
Well, we will see.
We'll
Thank
see.
you so much, Nicky Barrett. It's been
Pleasure.
a fantastic conversation.
Thank you, Emile.
I appreciate that. Thank you.